You know, so I know a lot of comedians who have mental health difficulties and stuff, and I think comedy in itself is a good way to help with that.
Guys, we're here ahead of our gigs in the Mac, and my gig in the Millennium Forum. You guys aren't there; you're only able to do the Mac because you don't like to travel to support mental health. But that's fair. And we're here, and we have the bucket of questions. So we're going to just have a little discussion about mental health. As you can see, it's actually mental health branding. Go to the website, you can get tickets to shows. I'm going to ask you a question.
Brilliant.
And see what you think. First question is: you look very nervous. Are you all right?
No, I'm ready. I'm excited. I'm excited for the questions.
You're tuned in.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm locked in.
Okay, well, prepare to get locked out. Don't know what that means. When have you ever been most nervous doing a gig?
Always, every time. Yeah, I'm always nervous. Pretty much, like invariably nervous. Yeah. People ask me if I'd be nervous on stage. I'm nervous off stage. I'm just nervous being a human.
Before the gig, when does the build up to the nerves happen? Would you be nervous all day of a gig, the week of the gig, or is it just directly before? I used to be.
I remember I booked my first big gig in the Ulster Hall, and I was nervous for 9 months. And I was up at night.
You'd be nervy baby, you know?
Oh, I was so nervous, yeah. And I was anxious for about 9 months. Now, this was during COVID, so that might have had something to do with it. But yeah, that's my longest streak, 9 months of nerves. What would you? I used to, whenever I started first, if I had a gig on, say, a Saturday night or something, I'd be in bed for most of Saturday, like under the guise of trying to get some rest before the gig. But I'd just be lying there fairly paralysed with the anxiety. But as time has gone on, I suppose the more you do something, you know, it's not as bad. And now it probably just ramps up just right before you go out.
And then when does that settle? Is it once you get on stage, or when? For
me, it's about half an hour into being on stage. So if it's a 20-minute set, it doesn't happen. I think once you get your first couple of lines out, once you get your first laugh, because I think that the audience are also a wee bit anxious, especially for me because I'm very new at this. It might be the first time sort of seeing me, and you can tell because they don't know what to expect, they don't know what's going on, they don't want to probably, because Northern Ireland audience is very nice, and they don't really want to hurt your feelings maybe by not, I don't know, maybe
I was going to say maybe you have better audiences than I have had.
So I think once you get that first laugh, I think the whole room sort of a wee bit, you know? They're willing you to do well. Nobody wants you to be crap.
I used to get mostly nervous before I went on stage, getting the mic out. That was when I was most jittery. So I was like, I'm going to drop this, I'm going to break the mic stand. And I once had it where my mic stand broke and dropped down and caught my finger. And then I was just doing the gig being like, that's really sore. And then I went to act a bit out and I just threw blood at somebody in the front row because my hand was just bleeding and I hadn't noticed. So that's pretty cool. Anyway, let's see what we have. The next question in the bucket. What is your favourite mental health?
As in, like,
I know I just made that question up.
I was like, your mental ill health
I just wanted
problem?
to see what your reaction to that would be. How do you look after your mental health working in comedy? So, for example, with travelling and working late nights, do you find that your mental health is affected by the career that you have?
I don't know. That's a hard one. I think most comedians probably, this is maybe a way of, you know, helping their mental health. Because I think most comedians, there's always that whole thing about, you know, the sad clown and all the rest of it, and that it's, you know, performing as like a conduit to sort of, you know, healing some kind of, you know, unmet need or whatever. But I always find that on the drive home, getting chips afterwards is pretty good for the mental health. That is good.
Yeah. And the good thing about chips is they're good if you have a great gig and they're good if you have a bad gig.
Chips is chips. And chips. Listening to a podcast or an audiobook on the way home. Usually Harry Potter.
Nice. What's your process after a gig? What did you do, Emer? After a gig, you just have a cracking gig and you're on the way home. What's that look like?
Maybe something to eat, but definitely a podcast as well, a murder podcast. On the way home, just to relax me, chill me out. But yeah, I think... What was the original question? I can't even remember it now.
How do you deal with mental health?
Did you say, for me, travelling and late night gigs, no problem. None of that's an issue. The only problem, I think, to your mental health, if you're doing comedy or you're doing something public, is trolls and being online and people commenting on your appearance or, you know, your sexuality or whatever it might be. So for me, that's literally the only issue. But I think Lianne's right. I do think a lot of people who have gone into comedy might have, I don't know, what my mother would have called a wee want. You know what I mean? They might might have some mental health issues anyway that they are, you know, they're combating through their comedy. You know, so I know a lot of comedians who have mental health difficulties and stuff, and I think comedy in itself is a good way to help with that.
Mhm.
So yeah, none of the traveling and all that I think is a good thing. It's not a difficult part of the job at all. Probably stand up in front of strangers every time you're doing it, and knowing that you have to make them laugh and make them like you is hard. But
But sometimes, when you walk into the room, you go, it's going to be a bad night.
you think
It's
it's going
going
to
to
be
be tough.
tough.
And there's nothing better when you think it's going to stink, and you go, it's a pleasant surprise.
That's true. That is the
That's
best feeling in the world.
Yeah.
I do think though that like for me, there's mental health is very much to do with your mental health, your processes, and your sort of cognitive function. Whereas when you're talking about depression and anxiety and stuff, that's maybe coming from a place in here. So I think it is a good thing. I know traveling is great and all the rest of it, but I think it's really important to get good sleep.
Yeah.
Good sleep is a massive thing because that is something that really does impact your mental health.
I think as well, being aware of what kind of works for you as well. And I think you can get a range of emotions being a comedian. You can go and have the best gig ever and you think you're on cloud nine, nothing's better. And the very next night, or even the same night, you could go and do another gig and you could have the total dip in your emotions as well. So I think it's being able to manage the expectations and how they respond, and to know that the great gigs aren't going to be every gig and the bad gigs aren't going to be every gig, and trying to keep some sort of level understanding to it. I think
it's about awareness, but it's also taking the time to look at it objectively and say, right, well, what have I done here today? Especially for you, because obviously you've got kids, you're a daddy as well. You've got so much on and you're so busy, and that's a massive role in itself. Just be able to take a wee bit of time and say, right, look what I've done here today. Look at all the stuff I've done. Right, I need to give myself a wee 15 minutes out here to listen to a podcast or go for a walk or do something for you.
Because that's what I think is the hardest thing about it. If I have a real stressful day and like the kids are torturing me, and then I'm like, I can't remember words. I can't remember what I said. I can't remember what I'm doing. And then that's the stress that you feel before the gig. You're like, oh no. Like I did a work in progress recently and I was like, oh no, I don't remember anything. And thankfully, because it was a work in progress, I could have the buzzwords there and I got through it and I felt way better. But the lead up to that, I was really nervous. Because it's a new show and you want the next show to be great and you want people to enjoy it. And I just could not, for the life of me, get words into my head. But pulled it off and I'm at the fight another day.
Yeah, it worked out. I love the flamboyance that you have.
Thank you. Obviously, with these gigs being for a good cause, we still have pressure to try and get bums on seats, get people to come and see the show. It is for a good cause. They're going to be great nights of comedy. However, how do you guys deal with the expectation or pressure of selling tickets and putting on a good show?
I'm a wild woman for if I'm doing my own gig and I'm selling my own tickets, just refreshing the link all the time to see what's sold. Because it's an endorsement. Selling tickets is an endorsement of you, which brings its own pressure. But then obviously there's a financial element to it as well because you have your outgoings and maybe you have somebody else on with you. You need to pay them. There's a lot of stuff you need to do, and then you also don't want to play at a room that's half full, because that affects the whole experience as well. So that is probably one of the most anxious parts. But it's different whenever you're heading on yourself and you're doing a spot and you're getting paid and that pressure's not on you. But whenever you have the pressure of running a gig, promoting a gig, and doing all that, it can be quite anxiety ridden.
I think it's the most stressful part about the whole thing because I like the show. I like to do that. I'd say I'm a comedian. I'm not a salesman. So to me, sometimes that's the worst part. I know some people have no issue putting themselves out on social media or other things. I struggle with that a bit. I'm like, why do they want to see my face? They come see me. That's what I'm there to do. But when you're trying to plug it, I'm like, I know people see through that. Hey guys, it's like, well, with this, it is going to be. There's 3 great nights with some of the best acts in the UK and Ireland, let alone just here. So I think that you'll be getting a good night out for a brilliant cause. And then again, there's a nice thing to go, not only is the ticket paying to get us out, have a nice night, get a bit of dinner, maybe go for a few drinks after, you're still the majority of everything that's coming from and these gigs are going to vital frontline services. So I think that makes me feel a bit less nervous, but then also nervous if nobody comes. You're like, oh no.
Because you'll single-handedly undo
It'll
all
be your
the
fault,
good
Dave.
work.
Everybody who's working behind the scenes for Action Mental Health will need to avail of the services if we don't sell more tickets. So guys, please, come along, please. Thank you. Let's see. How do you deal with pre-show nerves before the show? I know you're saying you spent 9 months being nervous. How, in that period, how did you deal with them?
Go ahead.
I do. I hate to admit it, but I do a breathing exercise. Because I know that's quite you see these quite a lot where you've got all these sort of what feels like quite complex breathing exercises, box breathing and stuff like that. I just do in for maybe say a count of 6 or 7, and then that outward breath. Then aim to sort of double that to really pace that outward breath. And again, I hate to admit it because you are told these things and you read about them and you're like, okay, but when you actually do it, it does it slows things down a wee bit, and you can sort of manage that. So you get that big bang of adrenaline and cortisol and stuff like that. That gives you those feelings, gives you the tummy, whereas if you slow everything down, and that's a great way of doing it. Plus, people don't really realise that you're doing it when you're doing it as well.
That's so subtle as well.
It is. You don't be like, just like you
that's just how I breathe. I go upstairs, really. So
yeah, same. Yeah, so don't go upstairs beforehand. No. That's also a good thing.
Bungalow life. And what do you do with yourself? Do you have anything in particular, or you just?
I think so. Whenever I do bigger shows, I have a very specific, strict routine, which is all to kind of keep me calm. And now, when I say routine, it's just me being very particular and like. I'll sound weird, but I have to bring my own glass. I have to have this. I have to have that. But that's just being me particular. But that's just kind of keeping me calm. But I try and not let myself have like peaks and troughs of being really anxious and really calm. I just try and work on keeping myself kind of calm all of the time, so that's like my baseline. So for me, I have OCD, so I have to make sure that I religiously take my tablets, or I would not be able to do a gig. But then I do other things just every day to try and look after myself. Like going out and walk always makes me feel better, or spending times with my dogs is the biggest thing. Having one of my dogs with me, Dougal, we were talking about earlier, my sister's dog, having him with me is the biggest thing that calms me down ever. But just kind of trying to keep myself on a general plateau of calm all the time. I notice that helps me whenever I get the gigs and I'm not as nervous. But I know Lianne saying there about the breathing and stuff. I remember one time years ago, my stage fright was really severe, so I had to go to CBT for it because I was getting to the point where I was throwing up before going on stage or having panic attacks and stuff. And a lot of the breathing exercises really do work. Like they really help. And I remember they even did a really simple one with me, and it was to try and ground you. And it was that thing, name 5 things you can see, 5 things you can smell, all that, which is very grounding. But remember the one that I still do all the time is where you breathe in and out, but you go with like the peaks and stuff of your fingers. So you like breathe in. And it's like to slow down your breathing and stuff, and it really, really does calm you down.
I think something that people sort of not dismiss, but they don't realise is we do need a level of anxiety. There is a reason for it, and it's not a bad thing all the time. And we need those that wee flush of those hormones that get us
a bit of adrenaline.
Yeah, the wee bit of adrenaline. It's just whenever there's too much of it, or it's too it's happening too often or whatever, it does become a problem. But sometimes it's not a bad thing to take that feeling and go, right, why, and to notice it and say, why am I feeling this? Right, okay, all right. Well, listen, that's okay, and that does sound very idealistic. And for somebody that is really struggling with anxiety, that probably does sound incredibly patronising. But for someone that has come out sort of the other side and has sort of sought to understand these things, it's okay. It's okay to feel anxious in anxious situations. That's perfectly normal. It's just whenever it goes on too much that it's not, and that's where these guys come in.
See, that's a great answer.
We have a professional here.
Yeah, with a little bit of silliness in there too. What was your worst gig, and how did you deal with it? We don't have to give specific names of venues.
The Pavilion.
Yeah.
I did the first time I ever did a gig outside Newry, I should say. I was down in the Pavilion, and it went really well. And like historically, people say that's where you go to have your first stage death, and it's a rite of passage. And once you get it done, that's great. So I went down fully expecting that was going to happen, and it didn't happen. Like relatively speaking, it went well. So then Luke, who's also a currency, was like, "Are you coming down again? And you can open and all." And I was like, yeah. And I thought, right, well, I can't do the same material that I did, so I did completely different stuff, without actually reading the room and realizing I'm talking about the troubles here and that kind of thing to a room of people who are maybe 18 or 19, who weren't born in 1998, let alone anything else.
Yeah.
You know, were they born in 1988? I know my math isn't good.
No,
Anyway, the point is, I didn't read the room and it was a death. And I was like, oh, right. So, but I had to reflect on that and go, right, what happened here? What's the difference? Then I realised, actually, I didn't.
Yeah.
I wasn't aware of my surroundings. I'm not going to do that again.
That's a good point about reading the room. My I'll not say bad gig, but my unusual gig experience was the same as that. So I was asked to do a wee gig out in the country in the middle of nowhere, and I went in, and everybody was eating, like, it was during the day, everybody was eating sandwiches, and I was like, this doesn't seem like my usual crowd, and it was all like very, very, very elderly women, and I got up and I started, doing comedy, and I sang a song that I have about, it's called Beaver Love, and I was singing this kind of thing, and then it's actually about two beavers fall in love. It's not about anything else. Two actual beavers. I finished this song, and I just, like, there was just like, and then one of the women got up on stage and she was like, we'd like to thank you for coming to the perform at the Women's Institute. And I thought, oh God. And like, I just thought, I didn't know what this gig was, who had organised it. It was just somebody who was like, I like your stuff, come down and do some stuff. But that was like the awkwardness I felt. And I'm pretty sure there was a woman who was asleep at one point. Like, so that is awkward. Like, have you ever had gigs like that and you just go and the people there, they're just like, they're not interested. They don't want to.
Yeah, I think sometimes, there'll be events or something, especially for
random things.
Yeah, things that are funded or whatever, and somebody will think to themselves, let's get a comedian, and because they have they have money there for entertainment and think, oh well, let's get a comedian in, and people don't want it. People they want to get their tea, or they want to have the bit of crack or whatever it is that they're doing, or they want to see a particular speaker, and then the Joker comes in and they don't want the Joker.
Especially if they're doing other activities, like at a wedding or something, and the DJ, I went to a wedding once, supposed to be on at 9:30, and I got there at 9:30, and wasn't on until 11:30. And they'd already had bits and pieces on from the DJ, and then they'd sit people down again. They're all blocked, and then the one who brought me on was like, she was like, go on there. I was like, no, you need to like introduce me to the maitre d'. And she was like, all right, everyone is sitting down, and they're like hustle and bustle. She goes, this guy's got something to say.
Oh my God, that's the worst.
And I was like, wow.
And nobody wants to listen at that stage.
And guess what? They didn't.
No.
And then when I was getting paid, I think it was the groom's dad or the bride's dad was like, you sure this is the right amount? Yeah. It seems very expensive. Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
I mean,
you're like, well, if you had a listen, it wouldn't seem so expensive.
Yeah.
That's so embarrassing.
Yeah. It's bad. And then one of the first gigs after COVID was a wedding, and my whole shtick was about, don't get married, it sucks. And they were like, what? And I was like, are we joking? But they took it real serious. That was bad. A lot of fun. But listen, there's no more questions.
I love that. But that was beautiful. So that was acting. Wow.
That was nice. Thank you.
How do you look after your mental health?
How do I look after my mental
health?
How
do you, as an ambassador for Action Mental Health, how do you?
I just try to be aware of my general moods and feelings, and if I feel like I'm struggling a bit, I try to address it and be aware that it's natural to do that, and not just go, into myself a bit. I think that was the biggest thing for me ever, was speaking about it to somebody, just to be like, listen, even if you're having bad days, you don't, like, sometimes I'll be in a mood about something and there's no explanation to it. I just feel bad. And then by saying, listen, I don't feel great today, it's nothing to do with you guys. It's just me. don't worry about it. I think that helps because then you worry about, oh, do they think that he's annoyed at us or what? And it's no. I think just being aware of it and kind of, it was just like someone said to me once, it's like a wave. You know what I mean? Like you can ride the wave or you can let it, drown you. So you just have to try to be aware of it and do what you can. And I think, thankfully for me, because I know how to deal with these and have a wee bit of coping mechanisms, that's a bit easier now. But there were times where I struggled, and I think that I'm glad now that I have the tools that I know in myself to navigate that, really.
Do you think at some level you have to search for the hero inside yourself?
I do. I think it all comes back to Heather Small. I think that's the message. And search for the secret to hide, but then...
Mental health is no small thing.
That's not a secret.
This is so beautiful.
Yeah.
And what is funny too is we're all trying to repress laughter here. Do
you know what I'm saying?
It's like, we're not allowed to laugh.
Sometimes you just don't look any further.
There you go. Do you have any other people songs you'd like that?
No.
Is that what you tell people in your counselling sessions?
To move on up. Sometimes, yeah.
And you know, actually, people even pronouncing their name wrong the whole time. So I am people's people.
Is that what you go around saying? Every time.
People.
If you could like taper your beard, you could look like Shovel.
Shovel the drummer for them people. You know too much about them people. Like, I don't think anyone's.
I don't even know who they are.
It's all one big renaissance. You know what I mean?
Ladies, thank you very much.
Thank you. That was inspiring and educational in equal measures.
I look forward to having you at the Mac.
Oh,
Stand up for somebody.
Lucky us.
Stand up for someone. 2026.
We look forward to you having us.
Yep. Can't wait.
Brilliant. See you there.
See you there.